I guess so. I mean, like when I was like a kid, I guess like I associated a little bit more with girls, and I think a little bit more feminine. But when I was like around 16, um, I guess like I discovered like Aiden Lizard, and he like kind of like put a name to what it was, and was like, all right, it's not like I'm like this terrible monster that like, everyone like, might be like scared of. It's just like a thing that people do. And yeah, like I guess I mean, in terms of like coming to terms with it, that was like I guess the hardest thing, right? Like because even when you see someone who's doing it and is out there, you have this fear that like everyone's going to treat you like some like a monster, or like they have all these like preconceived ideas about what it's about, which aren't necessarily true. And so like from I guess when I was 16 to when I was maybe like 20, let's say 20, maybe like 22, I guess. It takes a long time to realize that it's just a thing, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So I guess maybe like 5 years from like when I figured out what it was to like actually dealing with the fact that it's not going away and I'm not hurting anyone. Not really, to be honest. I mean, I think when I understood a little bit more about what it was about, I was very honest with I guess my very close friends. Um, but there were people who I didn't tell. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell like my parents, my brother, or anything. While I was still trying to get better at things, which takes a little while. But not particularly. I mean, I think I had friends. I had a lot of friends like in person who knew. I had a lot of friends online who knew. I think I was always like very open about it. Um, I mean, when I did start to tell people, like be even more open about it, like I started to tell, like I guess like more for friends or like acquaintances, and then like co-workers, and then finally family. There was never a point where anything bad happened. Like everyone was either very supportive, or the majority reaction, which is no one actually cared at all, um, which was definitely like fairly comforting. But yeah, I mean, everyone was either supportive or they didn't care. No, actually, which I think was the most surprising thing. Um, I can't think of anyone who like faded away into the background or dropped out or said anything negative. Um, I think I've been incredibly lucky in as much as everything's so far gone really well. Yeah, yeah, it was terrifying. I think because I mean for me like I came out in like little bits and pieces. Like obviously like my closest friends knew, but there was this one time at work we had like it was like a fancy dress party, and like the theme was like circus freak. I was like, all right, I have the perfect outfit. I can come as like a bearded lady or whatever. And it went really well, but there were all these like hints of like, oh, is there something he's not telling us? And there was because I wasn't telling anyone anything. But then like a few months later, we had like another fancy dress party again. So I did it again, and it became I guess like a thing. Like people were like expecting me to like dress up as a woman again. And then one day like at work, I was coming home. I was dressed up. I was taking some pictures, and there was one picture that I really liked, so I wanted to show people. It was like why can't I show people this awesome photo? And my first inclination was like maybe I'll just post it on Facebook, which is how I ended up coming out. But it was like the fear of like, you know, is everyone, is anyone going to talk to me ever again? Are the people who don't know, are they going to hate me? What are they going to think about me? Like, are they going to think things are like incorrect? Like, are they going to think like I'm some kind of monster or like some sexual deviant? Um, and you go around with all these fears all the time, and it's a little bit scary, it's terrifying, but I think one thing that you never really realize is all of these fears are basically, again, to some extent, unfounded. Yeah, I mean, it's the shame thing is hard because I think as you grow up. I mean, when I grew up at least, things are seemingly a lot better now for younger people. But like when I was growing up, it just seemed like like wearing clothes of a different gender, like dressing up to be like a woman, was like a joke. Or I mean, you see stuff in like Silence of the Lambs, where like Jane Gunn is like this, I guess like cross-dressing, transy, sexual deviant. Although like Hannibal Lecter does make a comment about they aren't like a common cross-dresser or whatever. But yeah, there's definitely you see these things in like I mean like in like horror movies. It's like something that's they use it as something that's seen as other, right? Um, and so like, when you when you know that you are a cross-dresser and you see people seeing you as this like thing that's not like everything else, it's other. It's not necessarily human, like humane. It's you start to internalize that. You start to feel like, oh, I'm different. I'm a monster. I'm a terrible person. In terms of coming to terms with it, um, which is, I think, the hardest thing out of everything. You just kind of have to realize you're not hurting anyone. This is who you are, and it's not going to change as much as people have tried to like get away from it, stop doing it. Yeah, the hardest part has always been just realizing you're not doing anything wrong. And once that's done, everything's great after that. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's basically just be honest about like what you don't know. Be open-minded because I think it's easy to come in to the conversation with all these preconceived ideas about like what it involves and which I think for the most part, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone, are wrong. But yeah, I think be honest, be open-minded, and try and be understanding about like the difficulties like involved in like being who we are and doing what we do. Um, I mean, it's very cliche, but it does get better like over time. But I mean, like I said, like the thing that I struggled most was asking myself, why am I like this? Why do I feel like I have to do this? And realizing that this is just how it was made or how it was built. Um, like helped a lot just to accept the fact once you accept who you are, once you accept that this is part of your life that isn't going away, and accept that you're not doing anything wrong or hurtful or immoral, you can. I think you start to feel happier almost immediately. Like it's very liberating, realizing that you can just live your life without this like shame and stigma that you've been like harboring for years. Mostly online. I mean, even to this day. Like I think I spent a while like when I was younger trying to find like these different communities like online of cross dressers, and it was actually very hard to find a group that I found that I associated well with because I think back then there were a lot of like older cross dressers online who had like a different idea of what it was about. There was this whole thing of like pretending that they were women or like and it didn't seem real. Like they had these like fake personas which didn't seem very real to me. But it was I think it was I guess a few years ago now when I found like the cross dressing subreddit on Reddit, which is like hugely supportive. Everyone feels like they're real people. Like you can have conversations with people. As well as like there's like an associated like IRC channel, which a lot of people talk in, um, which has been hugely helpful. It's been like a really great community. In terms of like in real life, there's definitely like a few people who I know like in real life, who like we hang out with every so often. But mostly because of like being busy or being just lazy, we don't actually meet up that often. I mean, I'm definitely hopeful. I mean, the fact that like like trans issues have been like at the forefront of so many things. You see like shows like Transparent. You're seeing it being like injected more and more into like the public eye. And with that, as younger people who are growing up in a world where it's much more acceptable, as they continue to like grow up and like more of society becomes more accepting of like trans issues and cross-dressing, I think things are only going to get better and better for the community. Yeah, two. One is practice. I mean, it's makeup is terrifying. Like even getting ready today, like I put everything out on the table, and there were like 25 different things, like 7 brushes and like 2 different types of everything. Um, but it can seem like so terrifying to begin with, but once you accept yourself and it's not going away, you kind of open yourself up to the fact that to get good at this requires practice. And so like putting the time in, looking up like guides online and tutorials and looking at videos to find out what you're doing wrong and like really paying attention to the things that to the kind of makeup that women wear or like the kind of clothes that women wear. I think a lot of people tend to go for like initially, and I did as well, go for like really short skirts and like absurdly high heels and like ridiculous like makeup, giant boobs and like just everything that's like too far off the end. Try and like rein it in and like actually observe what women wear. The second tip, smile. It's it's interesting. Like even now when I take photos like of myself, the difference that like just smiling will like change um, to the look of a photo. So like don't be afraid to like be active. Focus on finding out who you are and being yourself.